The first thing that caught my attention at the party wasn't the music or even the lighting. It was the way everything had been meticulously arranged to appear effortless. Crystal glasses, soft golden accents, people laughing just a little louder than necessary. My father moved through the crowd as if he owned not only the house, but the very air around it. Maybe he did. I stood by the bar wearing a neatly pressed uniform that felt heavier than it should have. Not because of the material, but because of what it stood for and who was noticing it. Eventually, he noticed me. His eyes dropped to the patch on my sleeve, then shifted to the tray in my hand. There was a pause, brief enough that nobody else would have noticed. "Glorified medic," he said, not loudly, but certainly not privately. "Just serve drinks." A few of his guests smiled in that polite, uncertain way people do when they aren't quite sure whether something is meant as a joke. I didn't answer. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I'd learned long ago that anything I said would become part of another conversation entirely, one where I was still the child trying to prove something. So I gave a single nod, adjusted the tray, and moved on. It wasn't the first time he'd made me seem smaller than I was. Maybe that was the issue. It didn't sting sharply anymore. It simply felt familiar. Still, my eyes continued moving. Scanning wasn't something I switched on and off. It was always there in the background, constant. The way someone held a glass. The slight sway of a person who'd had too much to drink. The tension in a jaw. The shallow rise and fall of a chest. Most people thought presence was about being noticed. For me, it had always been about noticing. That's when I spotted him. Mid-50s, perhaps, standing slightly apart from the louder groups. One hand rested at his collar, fingers pressing lightly as though adjusting something that refused to sit right. I slowed my pace just a little. His breathing didn't match the rest of the room. Too shallow. Too quick. His shoulders rose higher with every inhale, like each breath required effort. I stepped closer, offering a glass more out of habit than intention. He didn't take it. For a moment our eyes met. There was something there. Not exactly panic, but awareness. As if he knew something was wrong, yet hadn't decided what to do about it. "Sir," I said quietly, "are you feeling okay?" He opened his mouth to respond. He never got the chance. It happened fast, the way these situations usually do. One moment he was standing upright. The next, gravity took hold of him as though someone had flipped a switch. The glass in my hand hit the floor. I never heard it shatter. The room reacted the way rooms like this always react. First confusion, then noise. Someone gasped. Someone else let out a nervous laugh, as though this might still somehow be part of the evening. I was already moving. One knee down, then both, checking for responsiveness. Nothing. Airway. Breathing. Nothing. There's a moment right then when everything else disappears. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's simply clear. I tilted his head back and began compressions, counting beneath my breath. Steady. Controlled. "Call emergency services," I said without looking up. "Now?" There was hesitation. Not defiance. Just the kind of delay that happens when people don't expect they'll be the ones needed. "Now," I repeated, sharper this time. Footsteps scattered. I was aware of the crowd gathering, but only vaguely. Faces leaning in. Pulling away. At some point the music had stopped. I never looked for my father. He wasn't relevant here. What mattered was the rhythm. The depth. The timing. 30 compressions. Breath. Again. Somewhere behind me, a voice cut through the noise. Clear space. Let them work. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. There's a difference between authority that's performed and authority that's lived. This was the second kind. I didn't turn around, but I felt the change. People moved. The atmosphere shifted. Good form, the voice said, closer now. Measured. Observant. I glanced up briefly. 4 stars on his shoulders. Older. Composed. Watching everything without urgency, yet with complete attention. A 4-star general. Our eyes met for half a second. He gave a slight nod. Then he spoke. Listen to them. Not to the room. Not directed at anyone in particular. Just said it. It landed differently from everything else that had been said that night. Not because it was dramatic or loud, but because it was simple. Final. There was no debate in it. No room for interpretation. I returned to the rhythm. Time stretched in that strange way emergencies make it stretch. Seconds folding into one another. Movement becoming mechanical and precise. Then a breath. Small. Uneven. But there. I paused only long enough to reassess. Another breath followed. Stronger this time. The tension in the room shifted again, but I didn't allow it to pull me away from focus. Stabilize. Monitor. Wait for the professionals to take over. When they arrived, I stepped back without ceremony. Gave a quick report and watched them lift him onto the stretcher, an oxygen mask already in place. And then it was over. Not the party. That would eventually continue. These things always do. But that moment. That crack in the evening where something real had forced its way through. I stood there adjusting my sleeves, more from habit than necessity. That's when I saw him. My father wasn't speaking. Wasn't really moving either. He was simply standing there, looking at me. Not with anger. Not with pride. Something quieter than either. Like he'd been given information he wasn't sure what to do with yet. Around him, people were different now. Subtly. The way they stood closer to me. The way their eyes lingered for an extra second before looking away. Nobody said anything exaggerated. No applause. No grand declarations. Just space. The general walked past me on his way out. He paused briefly. You kept your head, he said. That's rare. I nodded. Thank you, sir. He didn't wait for a response. Just continued on, as though the sentence had already accomplished exactly what it needed to. I looked at my father one more time. He opened his mouth as if he were about to say something. Then he didn't. And for the first time, that felt like enough, not closure, not repair, just a shift, small, permanent. I picked up another tray, steadied it doing my hands, and stepped back into the room. Not as decoration. Not as something diminished. Simply as myself.